Like Bionicle G1 into Bionicle G2, we're back. And today, on this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration Series, I'm doing an episode about Self MOCs. I actually have a nice little list together of episodes that I want to do for the next few weeks because, I read your YouTube comments. I always read every comment, don't you worry. And somebody said, hey, I'd like to see a Self MOCs episode. So because of that, here it is. If you have suggestions for themes for future episodes, let me know, and I'll be sure to do them. So what is a Self MOC? Well, I've done multiple episodes on Self MOCs since the beginning of time, or the beginning of BIS time, I suppose. And I've gone into fairly detailed explanations of them, so I'll just give you a sort of brief overview for now. Definitely go check out some of those earlier episodes if you want a really in-depth explanation, because I go pretty hardcore in some of those early Self MOC episodes, so you may as well check that out. But essentially, a Self MOC is some sort of like mascot for yourself, or sort of for your presence on the old Bionicle community, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, Flickr, Facebook, whatever. So it can kind of be a mascot in that sense, or it can sort of be a mock that's like a form of self-expression in some fashion, whether it's sort of more literal, symbolic, or just, this is me if I was in Bionicle. It can be a variety of different things, but it really is sort of like a persona, a self-representation of some sort. You as a Bionicle of sorts, I guess is kind of the best way to word it. It can be many different things, and we're going to explore many different varieties of Self MOC in this episode. Self MOC? Is it Self MOCs or Self MOC? Guess, I don't know. I've always said Self MOCs, I suppose. That's probably the way I'm going to word it now. But yes, let's take a look at a variety of different versions of different Self MOCs today, and hopefully inspire you to build your own, because certainly building a sort of self-expression, sort of artistic piece like this can be a bit of fun, and a good way to learn a bit about yourself, I suppose, too, so that's always cool. The very first MOC we have today is by Mecca the Matoran, and this is called My Bionicle Self MOC, but I'm going to assume the name of the MOC is also Mecca Matoran. It didn't, or Mecca the Matoran. Didn't say in the email there, but it seems like a safe bet. So this is fun. I really like the idea of building a Self MOC as a Matoran. Often you see Self MOCs as like Toa, or sort of, your larger sort of typical like humanoid MOCs. Typically like sort of Toa in size. Occasionally you might see a Titan Self MOC. I guess it's up to you, but I don't know much about Mr. Mecca the Matoran here, but hey, maybe he's a sort of, just a wee lad. He's a Y-fol, a young fan of Lego, or a K-fol, a kid fan of Lego. People say that in many different ways. So, why not build a Self MOC that represents that? I've always thought myself, because my Self MOC is technically a Toa within the sort of little storyline that I have for him, I always thought, hey, when I get older, I may as well remake my Self MOC as a Taraga and be like, oh, I'm an old man now, so my Self MOC reflects that. So, hey, maybe you want your Self MOC to reflect where you are in your stages of life, whether that's reflecting your height, your age, or, I don't know, maybe sort of actual, like, physical parts of your body or something, It's completely up to you. But it's a bit of fun. Plus, a little tiny Matoran, they're kind of cute, playable, really easy to pose and stuff like that. So, I don't know, maybe you want to have your Self MOC be something that sits on your desk and you pose it all the time, you take cool photos with it, so building it to accommodate your needs in that sense is certainly smart. Something else that's smart is I love the technique used here on the legs for sort of like an interesting kind of knee design. When we look at the upper legs, it's using this engine piece that came on a variety of different sets, but notably it came on this Tahu Mystica set here. You can see it on the torso there. And what's cool about it is there's a couple different connection points here. There's sort of the front, sort of in the middle, but then you can also connect it from the back as well. So a variety of different ways you can use this piece, which is awesome. But what I think is most notably awesome is how, with the way he's attached it there, sort of inserting the piece sort of directly in the middle of this jet engine part here, it's kind of created this little sort of slight knee joint of sorts, which is interesting. You could also argue it just creates a bit of a more sort of, almost kind of like Z shape, or Z shape, depending on how you want to say that, look to the leg there, which I think just looks nice. But yeah, it's cool. I don't know. It's nice to see that piece being, taken advantage of in the way that it's got multiple connection points, and using that to your advantage to give it a unique shape. It's pretty cool. So nice little part usage there, that's for sure. I also like the face design using the Nuva shoulder piece as a headpiece. We've seen that on a few different MOCs, but I like how he's added a bit more system pieces there to give him some nice little chubby cheeks. Oh, it's kind of fun. It's kind of cute, and it's just a nice way of kind of rounding off the bottom of the face there. It's just a nice little detail. I also enjoy some of these photos here where he's making stuff. He's got a little table and he's hammering away and all that. it's cool. You know, it could be, again, a bit of representation of Mecca the Matoran here, and I don't know, maybe he does some metalwork, some woodwork, or, you know, he builds Lego, so hey, my Self MOC has, he does that as well, you know, so it's a representation of the builder in that sense. So some fun little details there that certainly speak of the creator, which is fitting. It's cool. On to the next MOC, the next Self MOC. This is by Bodhi Mitri, and this is Poharu Mirai. So immediately something that really stood out for me on this MOC was the little subtle bits of trans purple that are all throughout the jacket here. I assume it's a jacket or sort of like a suit or something. I don't know. It's fancy regardless, and it's nice. The color blocking of that is beautiful. Just concentrating all the azure there so that it's very notably, okay, this part is a jacket or something like that. So it's fitting and it works. But yeah, when you take a closer look, there's a bunch of these trans purple flames on sort of like the little flary out bits towards the top of like kind of the collar, I suppose. And also some trans purple limbs on the lower limbs there. It is really nice. You almost wouldn't notice that when you first see this, but when you take a look, it's like, oh, hey, that's pretty cool. So I don't know what it necessarily represents, but it certainly makes the jacket look really, really cool. Kind of reminds me of like Minecraft when you have like enchanted armor and different stuff like that, and it has that sort of like purple glow to it. Maybe this is an enchanted jacket that gives you comfort 3. I don't know, but it's cool. It's clever. It's a little subtle thing, and that trans purple and azure is a beautiful color combination there. So yeah, really, really nice. Really little fun detail. I love too the pants here. I initially sort of saw them as like denim jeans of sorts, but they're not really jeans. They're more like boots, I suppose. But I like the way that they sort of flare up at the top there with those little kind of like dark blue flag pieces. It's just interesting to see. And some very fancy shoes as well. So again, this could be representative of his fashion choices, perhaps, but I don't know. Does anyone wear like knee-high denim boots? I'm just assuming these are denim. That's just the image that I'm seeing. But hey, regardless, it's a nice looking sort of like foot and lower leg there, regardless of whether it's reflective of the actual builder or not. I'm making a total assumption, and I probably shouldn't be. But regardless, it's a cool looking design. I also like that he has a scarf. Love a good scarf. Especially the fact that it's not using cloth pieces, because it'd be pretty easy to use a cloth piece to achieve the look of a scarf. Certainly makes sense, but using some system pieces like that and having it sort of flow in the breeze naturally like that, that's cool. I also like that he has a shovel and some chickens, because why not? And his shovel's a really unique weapon as well. Again, very similar to Minecraft, so maybe some Minecraft inspiration here. I don't know, but yeah, shovel, unique weapon, and gotta love some chickens. Why not? Why not? So it's nice to know you can be as silly as you want in that sense. I mean, I don't know if chickens and a shovel is being super duper silly, but it fits, and it fits in a unique way. It's cool. That's that MOC. Here's this MOC. This is by Kaiser, and this is his Self MOC. Oh, sorry, Kaiser Creations, and this is Kaiser the MOC. I like this. This one really stood out to me because there's something about it that really reminds me of, was it Norik? From the Hordika wave of Bionicle sets. Something about him that just, obviously the color scheme is very similar, but also sort of the body shape and even just sort of having that kind of larger weapon of sorts. I know this is more of a sort of like scythe, whereas Norik had more of a sort of like, I don't know, longer glaive axe thing. I don't know what you would call that specific weapon there. But yeah, obviously some notable similarities here, but I really like how he's built this more sort of like custom torso using a whole bunch of different pieces to create a very surprisingly similar aesthetic to that of a Metru torso. So I don't know, I like the aesthetic of this MOC here because it's using no sort of like prefab limbs per se. It is, okay, that is not entirely true. It is definitely using prefab limbs, but there's a lot more sort of customization to it, or pieces added over the top of those prefab limbs or those Hero Factory bones, whatever you want to say, to kind of style it in a fashion that's similar to some of the original sets, but still sort of notably different. So I don't know, that just really stood out to me. I really like that. I also really like the choice of using some of the Knights Kingdom armor pieces on the lower legs there. Always a beautiful piece, and your Knights Kingdom armor pieces from some of those construction sets were always beautiful pieces. And I also thoroughly enjoyed this custom mask here. I always like a good custom mask. Of course, this doesn't appear in any official set or anything. But, if you're building a Self MOC and you want to have some sort of form of self-expression or some sort of unique personal touch, why not go for a custom mask like this? Because I don't know, it kind of makes sense. If you want to put your own unique flair to it, well, you may as well go for some sort of mask that very few people would use unless they actively go out and buy the mask. And hey, maybe if you're really good at 3D printing or, designing or crafting unique masks like that, why not give your Self MOC a one-of-a-kind mask so that it can really be a beautiful form of self-expression and it can be uniquely you, Completely up to you, and not everyone likes to use custom masks and all that, but I think that's a really cool idea. And I also think this is a really cool weapon that he's got here. I know I briefly touched on it before, but I like the choice of interdispersing some of those black connector pieces in with some of those like washer parts in light bluish grey there. Kind of gives it this nice sort of, little metal highlights or something on the staff there. It's just a nice little detail. So, yeah, really well done. On to the final MOC now. This is by Okkonen, and this is Self-Portrait as a Wooden Man. So this isn't actually technically AO's Self MOC. I believe I've actually featured it in, I would argue, a Self MOC episode. I can't remember. I know I've featured it on Biss in the past, but it looks very similar to Kitongu, hence Pate Kitongu, which is his other name, or his other alias, I suppose. It makes sense in that regard. But I wanted to feature this because it still is very sort of like to the core of what a Self MOC is. So I'm going to go over to Mr. Pate Kitongu's website, which is called Cyclop Bricks. There's a link in the description below. Make sure to check out his stuff, and pretty much every post he posts, he has a link to it, so definitely check it out. So I'll just read this sentence here in the sort of overall description of this, and I definitely recommend you go and read this yourself because there's a few other fun details about the process behind this MOC if you're interested. So Mr. AO says, "The head was the first thing I built, and it sort of defined the MOC a lot. Within some time, I saw myself on this figure. I have a bigger stomach, sure, but somehow I had built myself into a wooden plastic me." It's pretty cool. I like that idea. The idea that as you're building something, you sort of just... it's this weird thing that I've found from drawing to graphic design stuff to Lego and everything in between, where you can come with one specific vision, and when you actually finish it, sometimes it's nothing like what you originally envisioned. But the pieces kind of, I don't know, just took you in a weird direction, and you followed those creative impulses, and suddenly you had something even better than what you'd hoped. And it sounds very similar, that idea, to what actually happened with the process of this MOC here. And also the idea of when you do build stuff, or much like anything in life, you're going to put some part of yourself into it. So it's awesome that as AO was building this here, he's like, yo, I'm almost building some sort of depiction of myself, or I'm learning something about myself or whatever in this. And I adore that. I love that. That's so cool. So I don't know, maybe that could happen to you. Just as you're building something, you're like, wow, I'm noticing parts of myself in this. Yeah, it may not happen. Doesn't need to happen. But if it does, certainly listen to those creative impulses. See what comes up and see where see where the bricks take you, and see what happens. It's cool. So I love that. I think that's just such a cool kind of philosophy behind this MOC. It's awesome. Let's talk a bit about the MOC itself, though. I love the head design so much. The awesome part usage of using this like tree stump, kind of tree trunk piece. It's a very unique piece. I quickly checked on Bricklink before this. I think it only appears in like 5 sets. Most of them are the old Western sets. Here's an example of one of those Western sets. It's such a cool piece. It's such a unique piece. I wish Lego still made it. It's so cool. And it's just such a beautiful addition to sort of form the basis of this head. And I imagine AO started with that specific piece, because he said he started on the head, but most likely he grabbed that piece first and kind of built around it. And it's such a beautiful result, especially combined with this awesome mustache, using those tail pieces and these dark brown stem pieces to give it a bit of a beard as well. It's so cool. It's so cool. I also love some of the system additions, giving him this sort of like beautiful moss like kind of texture. The fact that it's actually the like studded Lego brick really, to me, perfectly illustrates the look of actual moss in the real world. So it's nice to see how he's playing with that studded texture to give it that look. It's awesome. I love the foot design here, using some of these arch pieces and flipping them on upside down to make it kind of look like roots of sort. It's a gorgeous little technique there. And I like just the idea that he's holding a gear, some fun about that. And this MOC has this real quizzitive look to it, like he's really pondering philosophy or just, what is this gear I'm holding? It's really, really cool. And the fact he's sitting on a rock too, that's another fun little addition. And, you know, all the other MOCs we saw today, they were all standing and stuff. No reason you couldn't give them a little seat of sorts, just to, I don't know, paint a picture or to communicate something. I don't know, it's cool. But yeah, I adore this MOC. So many fantastic techniques behind it, and so interesting how it is still a form of self-expression, even though it's not inherently a self MOC. Just think that's so cool. So that's it for this episode about self MOCs. If you've got any self MOCs of your own, feel free to submit them to the Bionicle Inspiration Series. You can do so through the email that's on your screen right now. Send me whatever you feel is necessary for it to be featured on the show, and then I'll get that email and I'll see what I can do. I'll see about putting it into a future episode. Additionally, in the description below are links to my own social media, so if you want to check out some of the stuff that I've got going on, that's the place to do so. In the description below is also a link to my Patreon, so if you're interested in seeing some bonus content like weekly podcasts and Q&A episodes and other fun, unique things like access to my private Discord server and much, much more, that's the place to check that out. I also have a PO box if you're interested in sending anything my way. It's on your screen right now. There's no obligation to do so if you don't want to, but if that's something you'd like to do, whatever you send me, I'll be sure to do a video about it. Thank you very much for watching. Happy building, and bye for now.